Aloha, thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Representative George Fontaine, and you're watching The Fontaine Factor. Tonight we have a great show up in line for you this evening. We're going to be talking about smart grids. In case you folks didn't know, we here in Hawaii, especially on Maui, have been selected for kind of a test bed for what this whole new technology will bring us in terms of helping us conserve energy and being able to monitor energy use more effectively. So I brought in this evening a couple of experts on it. My first guest is Whitney. She is an energy planning analyst with the Hawaii State Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, also known as DBET. In addition to her long-term planning and policy issues for the state of Hawaii, she also leads DBET's efforts with the Japan-U.S. Smart Grid Community Demonstration Project in Maui. Also joining me this evening is James Griffin. I should say Dr. Griffin, is an assistant specialist at the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute of the University of Hawaii. Jay has been on the HNEI faculty for nearly 3 years and is currently the project manager for the Department of Energy funded Smart Grid Demonstration Project on Maui. So both of you, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, let's start from the crow's nest and get down to the details a little bit later about exactly what it is, but maybe we could talk about in general what the policy is. Why are we doing this? What is the smart grid all about, and why are we doing it in Hawaii?
Well, I'd like to start by just saying kind of a little bit about what smart grid even is. You hear the phrase smart grid all the time, and what does that really mean? Some people think, does it really mean that the electrical system was dumb before all these things came about? And of course not. They are just simple technologies that are installed onto the system, and those technologies are able to talk to each other. They communicate. It's a two-way communication, and they can talk to each other. Those technologies can talk to the utility at the control center, and the control center can talk to the technologies. So that ability to communicate is kind of what makes it smart. Those technologies help the utility manage the grid. If there was a hurricane or a blackout, or even the amount of renewables that are trying to come on the grid, Hawaii's pushing that to happen very often, as much as they can. And so those technologies help the utility manage the system and keep the lights on for everyone. And one of the kind of hidden pieces of smart grid is it's always collecting data. These technologies collect data every 5 seconds, every minute, every hour, every day, all year long. And at the end, those technologies can help the utility plan out their long-term goals, how they're going to generate electricity to meet the load, how they're going to watch the weather, check to see how the weather is acting every year, and maybe somehow plan for that. And then offices like DBED, we're able to maybe look at that information and help set policy and draft legislation or participate in dockets that will impact the grid, knowing what those technologies are giving us and reporting to us. So smart grid is a lot of different things, but it's really just communication and data in the simplest of terms.
Okay, well, talking about communications and data, this is one of the areas that people have approached me about with some concerns, and I'm not sure if this is a question for you or for Jay, but what kind of data is being stored, and people are fearful that somehow or another this is a big brother thing, and we're going into like the Terminator with the Skynet, and we're acquiring data on citizens on their use of when they plug their coffee pot in the morning and that kind of thing. So who wants to take a stab?
So I'll answer that, and first, I just wanted to add one more thing on top of what Christian had said. And I think it's important to keep in mind that at the highest level, I think collectively as a state, as a legislature, we've decided the state wants to move away from our dependence on oil. and doing so by using locally produced renewable energy sources, and particularly what we've seen on Maui, the great interest and commercial success of wind power and of solar PV, and solar technologies, photovoltaics being the primary one. And one of the challenges that the utility faces, that those are variable sources of energy, and one of what they need to do to keep the grid operating and running is to constantly balance the supply and demand of power in real time, all the time. With the grid the way it is today, that these types of new energy sources face challenges, face constraints. So part of what we're doing here is Christian had said, what's smart grid? Part of the way I think of it is it's just like other industries, other technologies, it's about modernizing the system using best available new technologies. So there's new types of communications, there's new types of information technology that let different parts of the grid talk to each other. And that in the future, as this moves further, will help people balance the supply and demand all of the time, help us bring more wind and solar power, use less oil so we have a more reliable, stable system into the future. Pricing, the cost is more constant. Some of the other benefits are more information provided to customers will help them make better choices, where one of the clean energy goals is helping the state save energy. So parts of smart grid help do that, help customers make better decisions, and enable new technologies, things like electric vehicles that'll help us shift away from using gas to using renewable source electricity to fuel our cars. So that's the long-term vision. These technologies are, I think, in an early state, so the value is having the types of demonstration projects that we're having the opportunity to. I think of it as if you make a big investment when you go to buy a car, you go test drive it first, you do lots of checking out. This as a state, as an island, is an opportunity for individuals and for the utility and the rest of the state to test drive some of this stuff. So that's our opportunity, and I think the highest level, where this helps take everyone. And I think those are goals and visions shared by everyone. These have been laws passed by the legislature to reflect that will. And then we can certainly get into more specifics.
Yeah,
of the
I
projects.
think we want to talk about that because, like I said, I definitely on our show this evening, as I want to cover some of the concerns that were shared about data gathering and data harvesting from particular users, and I'm going to let you get into talking a little bit about that. But basically, we have two projects that are actually happening on Maui. Maybe you could talk about what those are.
Sure. One of them is with the Department of Energy, and that's the one that Jay and HNEI are kind of taking the front on. That one is located in the Wailea, South Maui area, and that one's kind of progressing already. It's on the go. They're already having lots of meetings going on in Maui about that one. The other one, which is really interesting, is actually involving the Japanese government. And that one, there have been estimates out there of around $43 million that Japan is putting into this project in Maui. That one is actually in Kihei, also in South Maui. And the technologies that they're going to be testing are very similar to the ones that Jay's group is testing. But one of the big differences is the electric vehicles. And the Japan project involves electric cars and electric chargers, and those are actually going to be all over the island of Maui. So other residents in Maui and tourists of Maui are able to participate in the Japan project, and that's just a little piece that's different between the two projects. But both of them are in South Maui, and it's a really big deal.
Well, we're very honored, obviously, to have this kind of technologies and coming to our island. Why was Maui selected? I mean, of all the places in the world, I mean, it's great. That we're having an opportunity to participate really on a world stage in terms of developing new technology. But how did Maui get selected?
Sure. So I can, and actually part of that predates before I was hired. This proposal went into the Department of Energy, and so our staff at the university was working with some private sector companies, General Electric, and the utility. So part of the question was, where in Hawaii would this project be interesting? And interest was Maui came right to the top, because a lot of people talk about doing projects to help enable renewable energy, but it's a issue that's further over the horizon most other places, even here on Oahu. But on Maui, you guys have lots of wind power already, lots of solar power, and that is only continuing to increase. So to do the real live tests with the resource that everyone's interested in furthering, and that is the real life situation, and some of these constraints and limitations of the grid are real. So we're doing these tests that are helping the system today, but also very much helping pave the way in the future. So that, really came down to this. It is, if you look kind of on a relative basis, the amount of renewable energy on the Maui island relative to the size, it's leading the world in many cases. So that brought the attention here, or to Maui. And so part of the question is why these particular areas of the island. So with our project, Department of Energy requires a certain amount of matching funds from the private sector to match the government funds to show that the private sector has skin in the game also. So we looked at what are other relatively large investments that Maui Electric was already doing. They were in the process of upgrading the substation in Wailea, putting in a new transformer, reconfiguring some of the distribution lines. So by matching the new Department of Energy funds, that help stretch the money that all the ratepayers of Maui are investing in these projects. So you get an improved system and an improved system to test out new technologies. And Department of Energy shows that there's a level of commitment from the private sector that they're very much interested in, and we're making good choices with the government money.
Excellent. Folks, if you're just joining us, I'm Representative George Fontaine, and we're talking about smart grid technology that's happening on Maui. That's today's topic of conversation. We have two awesome guests on the show today. Christine Whitney of the Hawaii State Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, and Dr. Jay Griffin of the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute at the University of Hawaii. Again, thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you for
We're honored.
Let's talk about what the technology itself looks like. You brought some demonstration items.
I did. So our project encompasses a bunch of technologies, but we hope the great opportunity for Maui residents are, we're providing the opportunity to test some of these things in your home. So what I'm going to first show you is what's called the so-called smart meter.
Okay. And we just let the folks that.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
And what this is a normal, digital in this case, it's taking a normal electricity meter, which measures how much energy you're using in your home, and adding new communications and memory within the meter itself. So you can actually, if we open this up, this is a demo case. This is a normal meter, except there's a little chip in here, and that chip stores information and allows communication. So communication from the utility to your home, and what I'll get to in a second, communication from the meter to various things in your home. And so a couple of things. What purposes can that serve? And we'll get to one of your questions. What information is collected and stored on here and transmitted? So one, very basically, the meter operates like a normal meter. It measures how much energy is being consumed by your home. That's recorded on a certain interval, usually about every 15 minutes. So your energy consumption at the whole home is measured on here, not specifically looking at how much your hairdryer is using, that sort of thing. So the meter itself is just storing how much energy you're using. And by making that communication to the utility, that information can then be downloaded and put up on websites. So with our project, if you participate, the information collected on your energy consumption will be downloaded and made available to a website, a personalized, secure website. And we have an example here. So showing you your hourly, in this case, hourly energy consumption for as long as the meter is installed in your home. So what benefit does that give to you? Right now, you receive your energy bill at the end of the month after you've consumed it all, and really no other commodity that we use. If you went to the grocery store and bought groceries for a month and got the bill at the end of the month, you would end up spending a lot more than, you see the price tag every time and when you check out. So this is a way of helping you and your home take better, track in a better way how much you're using, pay attention a little more. But it's still, you have to look at that and then make choices about what you may want to use less or so on. So your energy consumption information is one of the pieces of information collected. The meters themselves can also detect when the power is just about to go out. So if there's an outage in your neighborhood, the meters detect that and send an alert signal to the utility saying the power is going out in this location. So if you're in the control room at MECO, all of a sudden you see on your board all these alerts going up. 100 meters in this neighborhood are all saying the power's out. Today, the utility waits till some fraction of those people call up on the phone saying, hey, my power's out, what can you guys do about it? They have to go and try and track down within the network where the power line may be down. This helps pinpoint more precisely exactly where the problems are. And then on top of that, once the crews have gone out and tried to fix the problem, they can send signals to the meter and say, is the line energized? Is there power in these homes now? So there's a safety fact. One, you as a customer get your power restored faster. Two, the guys out in the field, the utility can test whether the lines are energized or not. So benefit for less potential injuries on that side. So that's one part. I don't know if you want to add any more. If you have further questions at this point.
I think people are concerned that we want to make sure that the information isn't going to be used in a kind of a big brother fashion where government would come in and be able to start looking at particular usage. And I think you've answered a lot of that. But with this day and age with cybercrime, we're obviously concerned about that piece of the puzzle where personal information could potentially be stored online. People could hack into your secure smart grid thing and get personal information like billing address or whatever that case may be. So what are the steps that you folks are taking in terms of that?
Well, one of the things in the Japan project, actually, there's about 5 companies from Japan that have kind of built a consortium, and they're coming to Maui with all these technologies, and one of them is called Cyber Defense. And it's a group, they're just a bunch of hackers. That's what they do. They're paid by sometimes from the government, other businesses hire them. They try to hack MECO's system, or they try to hack into your house. Now, they're obviously part of this project, so they know parts of what's going on, but in order to defend and protect your home, these people go in and try to get in, and then they'll be able to report back to Japan and report back to us. Here's where the loopholes were. Here's where you weren't so secure. Here's where the wall needs to be bigger. Go in and fix it before this becomes live. So one of the components of the Japan project is the cybersecurity component, and it's there because a lot of people are concerned about it, and rightfully so, but they are getting vetted, and they're things that we're trying to fix.
Okay, well, I think that's a real concern for a lot of people, and I think even the president even mentioned his concern about smart grid technology in one of his speeches. He discussed, what a foreign body could come in and bring down a whole grid by either doing a denial of service attack or something along that line that would cause or send a signal out through Wi-Fi to shut people's meters off and disable, stores or cities from power, and could potentially wreak havoc, and not just necessarily doing it as a cyber warfare, but just as a prank, or just something cool to do. Look, we were able to do that, and we've seen over the course of the year, and in fact, I did a show on cybercrime where we're getting so many attacks in the state of Hawaii. There's something like 30,000, I think over 30,000 attempts to hack into or break into things. So this is something that's a concern. The other thing is the Wi-Fi. What kind of technology is it? I've had people ask me questions about is the radio frequency coming off of this? Is it hazardous to human beings? Will it? There was a lot of debate and talk about cell phones. Holding a cell phone or talking on a cell phone for a long period of time could affect your brain. What about this technology?
Yeah, no, very good question, and there's a very active debate going on with other projects. And so the technology, this particular technology works, as you'd said, it's known as a wireless mesh network. So there are, similar to, you have a cable modem in your home and a router sending signals and communicating information. These meters can talk to each other through a wireless network and send communications to a router, as well as communicate to the devices in your home. It uses what's known as radio frequency emissions. So these are bursts of radiation to send information. The levels, so a couple of things about that. Just that type of transmission, the further away, it's a question of how close are you to the transmitter. As you get further away, the level of exposure decreases significantly within, literally within inches, within a foot. It's very, very small. And these meters use what's known, it's a low-powered radio at a certain frequency level. So it's a 1 watt, the power level is 1 watt. So if you think, a typical fluorescent bulb is 60 watts amount of power consumption. This is 1 watt sending the signal. And if you look at, and there's a fair number of studies have been done on this, if you look at the level of exposure compared to everyday types of technologies that use the same types of communications, a cell phone being a prime example, the level of exposure is considerably less, in the range of hundreds of times less.
So there's no risk to human health with
it is one, it's within, the FCC has set certain limits on what is acceptable levels, and this technology is well below. That said, I think it's a fair question that overall the long-term, what's known about exposure to these types of radio waves in the long term still remains an unknown question. And one, so it's not known to definitively harm you, but it's one of these issues that it's hard to prove a negative, that we just haven't lived with these technologies for long.
So as long as I'm not putting my pillow on top of this thing and sleeping on top of it every night,
you know
it
what?
should be
It's
okay.
even studies have been done that this is sitting outside your house. There's typically a metal box that is attached to your wall. Even just on the other side of it, the level of exposure is very small at that point. So even right up next to it, and there's a lot of studies, very detailed studies that are this deep, looking at all these issues.
Well, I think the bottom line is that as with this project, it's an opt-in.
Correct.
And so that's, I think, important for the viewers to understand is that this isn't going to be something that's just dropped on your house without your permission. You have to actually want this. And so, given what you've said in terms of distance, even if your neighbor had this attached, they opted in, they'd be significantly far away that any kind of traceable radio waves that were coming from your neighbor's house would be.
It's within background levels, because you
probably would get more from your microwave oven, perhaps, when cooking with your microwave and making your TV dinner, than you would in terms of the danger that you would get from this. And that's, I think, important for all of us to know as we go forward with this new technology. I go back to a story that was in the New York Times when telegraphs were first invented, and there was a whole story about when the telegraph first came out. The paper was concerned, and people were worried that if you stood underneath the telegraph wire, that the waves coming off the telegraph wire were going to kill you or significantly harm you. And this is true. They actually had a paper published about this, and people were afraid they would never walk under the power lines or the telegraph lines for fear that they were going to get cancer or it was going to make them sick. So I think with all of these new technologies, there's always going to be a fear of the unknown. And yes, it is a new technology, and I'm sure there will be issues coming forward, but we need to look forward, right? We don't want to be looking backwards, especially with our goal of being 70% reduction and being on renewable energies and using power more effectively. Now, aside from the meter, what other kinds of things are available that go along with the whole smart grid?
Glad you asked. So we're, if you go online to MauiSmartGrid.com, we're accepting people that want to participate. So other things that we're offering, this is what's known as a in-home energy display. So if you would prefer to see this physically in your home, this display talks to the meter, shows you, got to hold it steady. So, it'll show your real-time energy consumption that's measured at the meter and talks to it and shows it in different ways. Can show you how much that's costing you, some track record. For the real technology whizzes, it'll show kilowatt hours or kilowatts consumed, and you can go and turn things on and off in your home, figure out how much things are using electricity. A couple of the other technologies are what's known as demand response technologies, and this gets at what we're hoping to demonstrate in this project about helping manage renewable energy. So this is a smart thermostat. So if you have central AC in your home, this also communicates with the meter, can receive a signal, and for short periods the utility, or actually that would receive the signal and raise the setting on your temperature by a few degrees. So it turns your air conditioner off, and so the question is why would you want the utility to turn your air conditioner off? In a situation of an emergency, such as a large drop in wind power on the system, this is one tool if there's thousands of people on the island with this available, it can be turned off for short periods and then collectively can bring the demand down. And these are things that are offered as programs at other utilities. So you would be part of a program in the future, so it'd be part of a program that you may receive an incentive on your bill. And so you would opt into it, receive an incentive.
We've only got about a minute left. Is there anything else you really quickly wanted to show, or is that pretty much?
This is one example. This is something does the same thing on a hot water heater.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Now let's get to the timeline, because we didn't talk about that. What is the timeline for all of this to happen?
Great. So we're accepting volunteers. If you go to the website, you can see the form to sign up. Really up through the end of the year. We're looking to do the first installations in the Maui Meadows neighborhood in January of next year. Some of the other technologies you receive will come later.
Okay, great. And so if people want to opt in, they can go to the MauiSmartGrid.com and sign up. Terrific. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming. I'm sorry I had to rush you there at the end, but we had a lot to cover, and I really appreciate you folks coming in. I think we've shed some light on the this whole renewable energy project and smart grid, and hopefully people will take away a more positive outlook of what we're doing and be very proud of what we're going to accomplish in our community. Folks, if you have any questions or comments about tonight's show, please write to us at the Fontaine Factory. You can reach me at repfontaine, capital.hawaii.gov. That's repfontaine, capital.hawaii.gov. And again, thank you for watching.